When I think back to the Wii's release over a decade ago, even then as a tween, I knew that the Wii was not something that I wanted to associate myself with. It wasn't something that I wanted to play because to me it raised so many red flags that it was for a casual audience, which was kind of disappointing considering all the great Nintendo games that came out on the GameCube. The motion controls were just such a gimmick to me that the console did not really interest me. But last year in 2017, I bought a Wii for the first time because I discovered from reading online just how much potential the console had, just how many untapped features that it had once you got it soft modded. This console right here, the Wii, it's heavily underappreciated. It's owned by so many people, and then the people that own it also are willing to sell it to you for next to nothing because it is so underappreciated. Yet this console can run all sorts of emulators. It can play GameCube games natively, and of course it can also play the few worthwhile Wii games that are out there as well. And you can get this fairly inexpensively. So today we're going to build the ultimate Nintendo console, or at least I'm going to explain to you how I would if I hadn't already. And obviously the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic console, but if you're looking to get a gift for somebody or just get something for yourself this holiday season that isn't $300 but plays Nintendo games, this could be your best way to do it. The Switch isn't for everybody. $300 price tag isn't for everybody, so this might be something that's better for you. So let's get right into it, break down what you're going to need, and then talk about how this is going to work. I'm not going to explain it step by step in this video, but I will have a link to a tutorial down in the description that will really get into the nitty-gritties, and I'm just hoping to overview a lot of things to get you guys the right mindset to go into that tutorial. So typically, a Wii like this one, a white one, it's got the GameCube slots on the side. Typically, there should be a cover over this. Evidently, the one I bought, it was broken off. Typically, what you're going to find is these will run you about $30 at a pawn shop, including the 3 cables you need for the back, this one being for the TV, this one for the power, and this one for the motion control sensor that goes in front of your TV. Typically at a pawn shop you will also get a Wii remote, but it will not include one of these nunchucks. But typically you can get a nunchuck for about $5, and you may not even need a nunchuck depending on what you plan on doing with this. Now the Wii controllers, my biggest gripe about these is there is no rechargeable batteries, true rechargeable batteries. You can get the Energizer rechargeable batteries, but the problem is you can't actually charge the controller and play with the controller at the same time just because the batteries have to be in a wall-mounted device charging outside of this motion controller. So it is a little bit of an annoyance, but that's just the way the Wii controller works. Now, like I said, this can play many emulators. It can play GameCube games, and if you want to do that, what you're really going to need is a GameCube controller. Now, I bought this one pretty cheap, I think less than $15 at GameStop, brand new. Now, it is a GameStop brand. At Play is the brand. It's not the same quality as a first-party controller, but if you're playing with your kids or you're not playing, hardcore Melee, this is a good enough controller for you. And at $15 for a new controller, I just don't think you can go wrong. So I actually picked up 2 of those because there's not many GameCube games you want to play alone. They are great multiplayer games, so I strongly recommend probably getting more GameCube controllers than Wii controllers, just because they feel better for playing these emulators and of course the GameCube games themselves. Now right out of the box, the Wii can play GameCube games via a disc. Now if you want to play backup GameCube games, backup Wii games, any of the emulated games that I talked about, you're going to want to get a storage device to put in the Wii. Now I personally use a laptop hard drive inside of a caddy here. It plugs in with the USB. Now those can be a little bit more expensive, but obviously have a lot of storage space. I actually have this split into 3 partitions, so basically it is seen on the computer and by the Wii as 3 different drives. I use it to store my GameCube games, my Wii games, and my PlayStation 2 games, which are obviously the PlayStation 2 games are not playable on the Wii. I just happen to store them on that drive. Now, because the Wii only has one slot that you can use to read games from, it is the bottommost slot when the console is sitting on its side, this one right here. You probably don't want to switch around drives a lot, but it is definitely an option to go and just get a USB flash drive if you want to play those backup games. A typical Lexar one will work just fine. Any other brand I'm pretty sure would work fine as well, but I've always used these Lexar ones. Now, a typical GameCube game is about 1.5 gigabytes. In fact, every GameCube game I've ever seen is 1.5 gigabytes. And I think that has something to do with the compression that was put onto that small disc, but I'm not 100% sure. So when you take that into account, a 16 or 32 gigabyte flash drive is going to net you a lot of space for GameCube games. Now, GameCube games use a FAT32 format, while the Wii games use a WBSF or something like that format. It's not really important that you know the difference between the two formats, just know the fact that the formats are different, which means you cannot put a mix of Wii games and a mix of GameCube games on the same flash drive or the same hard drive without having two different partitions. Now, if you don't want to bother partitioning a drive, the easiest thing that I did when I had first modded my Wii was I simply got two different flash drives and I switched them out. One flash drive being for the Wii games, one flash drive being for the GameCube games. Now, the actual process of modding the Wii involves using a SD card. So I have this SD card right here in the SD card slot on the front of the Wii. You don't need a very big one. This is a 2 gigabyte one from Walgreens, and you need to have an SD card along with all the cables for the Wii and a regular Wii remote in order to mod the Wii. And like I said, I will have a linked tutorial down in the description so that you guys can find out how exactly to do it step by step. But I reassure you that it is very easy. Now, one of the coolest things about the older model Wiis, this one being a white one, and it's going to come down to really this model number right here, whether or not yours works or not. You probably can't read my model number, but it's right next to the barcode there. It's going to come down to whether or not it works, not for the mod, because they all work for the soft mod, but whether or not you can use something called BootMe. Now, you don't need to use BootMe. BootMe just makes this whole process be so much more convenient. Now, my console, which is RVL001, is compatible with BootMe, which is great. Now, let me tell you what BootMe is. Basically, before you turn on your Wii and you see that typical Wii menu with all the small blocky TV things, before it gets to that menu, it brings up the BootMe menu, which basically gives you 4 icons. The first one being to open up the Wii menu, the second one being to open up the Homebrew launcher where you can go straight into all of your Homebrew, and then they have 2 more options. Now, coolest thing about this menu is you can maneuver it using the physical buttons on the front of the Wii. The power button and the reset button maneuver the menu left and right along with selecting. So it makes it be very easy to maneuver the menu without actually having to use the Wii remote and, position the hand on the screen. The other awesome thing is with a GameCube controller, you can maneuver this menu, which means once it's modded, you really don't need the Wii remote unless you want to play Wii games. You could maneuver all of the menus if the console's BootMe compatible using a GameCube controller. Now again, your console does not have to be BootMe compatible in order to actually mod it. It just makes this whole thing be so much easier to operate on a day-to-day basis because you don't have to worry about using the rechargeable batteries in the Wii remote. You don't have to worry about positioning the hand on the screen. You can just use the GameCube controller and it makes it be so much simpler. So building an awesome Wii, that's right, a Wii to play all of these classic games could not be easier or really be less expensive. Obviously, people will argue that you could just use a Raspberry Pi instead or something like that, but the Raspberry Pi can't run GameCube games, and even if you had like a cluster of them that could, you still can't really run Wii games. The motion controllers aren't integrated, and the whole thing just doesn't run the way it's supposed to because the Wii was actually built to run GameCube games. This is, in a lot of ways, a GameCube. If you buy the GameCube discs, and if you have any, and you put them in here, it's going to play just like it would on a GameCube. This is a fantastic console. It's very inexpensive to get into, and I would recommend it to anybody. If you want to have some sort of modding session with your kid, teach your kid a few things about the computer and whatnot, this is a great console to be working on and to be doing it together with. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey. I would love to answer any of your questions that you have about the Wii down in the comments section. Throw them down there. I will be sure to give you my best advice I can to get you guys set up with this sweet little Nintendo console. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video.